Good evening. I'd like to call to order the Zoning Commission meeting of May 13th, 2009. Let the record show all members are present except Paige Becknell. This time I'd like to open up the floor for public comment period. Anyone wishing to comment on any item not on the agenda, please come forward, sign in, and you'll have 3 minutes. No one wishing to come forward, public comment period is closed. Acceptance of the minutes from the April 8th, 2009 meeting.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Steve Barrow, seconded by Bob. Any opposition? Motion carries. Item number 5, public hearing to consider zoning ID 2002.09 Burl Thomas Graves property for Verizon Wireless. Anyone here to present it? State your name, please.
My name's Mark Hodges with Verizon Wireless. Mr. Gregg, you're also at the back.
Okay. You want to just go ahead and explain your request? Just briefly.
The request is to, briefly just construct a telecommunications tower on the Graves property. So it's a self-support tower, not a guide tower, but a self-support tower. I think we've turned in all the appropriate thing to staff. It has been reviewed.
Okay.
To my understanding, it fits within all the ordinance regs.
Any comments, questions? At this time, I'd like to open up the floor for public hearing. Anyone wishing to come forward and comment, please come forward. You have 3 minutes to speak. No one wishing to come forward? Any comments or questions by commissioners? If not, what is the wish of the commission? A motion approved by Bob and
Second.
seconded by Beverly Parish. Any opposition?
Mr. Chair, I'm going to...
Motion carries. Okay, okay. Julio abstains. Make sure you get that. Patrice? Motion carries. Old business, item number 6, Bronco Fabrication. In your packets, you have a letter from Bronco, basically just requesting to postpone being on tonight's meeting, not to appear in tonight's meeting. And it'll be rescheduled for June. Any discussion? Okay, we'll put them on the June agenda. All right, item 6B, Historical Overlay ID 153506, Investment Ascension Properties LLC for Danny Watts, located on the east side of Airline Highway. Lance, you wanted? No, you don't want. Well, too bad.
Oh, sorry.
Say something anyway.
Yeah, this
We want to
is
hear from you.
okay. Yes, this is old business. This is a historical overlay for investment properties. This is located on the corner of Old Jefferson Highway and Airline Highway. There is a bank that's there. They came before the commission back in July, and basically they asked to put this temporary building there. They were given being able to put the temporary building with a maximum of 24 months from the date that it was permitted. That time frame expired March of this year. I've contacted the bank, and also the person that was there told me that she would contact the president, and I have not heard from him since.
Okay, thank you.
Lance, I have a question for you.
Sure, yes, ma'am.
These minutes are from July of '06. That's 3 years.
It was from the date of when it was permitted. So the meeting actually happened, and then they were permitted further on down, I guess, within March of, yeah, it took that while for them to
Okay.
get. What took so long with that particular property was the state and requiring them to put turn lanes and those type of things in there. So that's why it took that long length of time.
Looks like the occupancy permit was 5/10/2007, which is a few pages later.
So,
Okay, I just remember, I
right.
remember the meetings.
Right.
Okay.
but it did take a while because of the requirements that the state was putting on them to make that turn.
So what are we here for tonight? To extend?
Well, I don't know. I told them
mean-
I was going to put it on the agenda because the time frame was up. I can kind of say also that I've heard that they're going to be leaving soon, the location real soon. So
Well-
it may be one of those things where they know that they're going to be leaving the location. So that may be the reason why I didn't hear from them.
Well, I distinctly remember the meeting, and I remember asking them repeatedly, you know, do you need 12 months? Do you need 24 months? You know, when are you going to have your permanent building in? And I've also heard through other sources that they're planning on leaving the site. You know,
When you said you heard that they're going to be leaving, you mean the bank is going to be closing, or
that location,
just that location, or moving
to
completely?
the best of my knowledge, just that location. But that's all I know.
So what happens if we do nothing?
You made the motion, but you weren't there. I like that.
I just want to make a point of clarification on your minutes. I in an absent state, I made a motion, but that's okay.
We just wanted to, once again, we feel it's important that as a staff, we maintain the integrity
I
of
agree.
the meetings that have happened in the past, and we wanted to stick this in the agenda, to put it in front of you and say, this is something that happened 2 years ago, it has now since lapsed, what do you want us to do about it? Do you want to grant a temporary extension? What do you,
Yeah, I
Well,
agree.
I
No.
mean, the fact of the matter is they're not here, and what I would, and I'm going to look to the chair, the commissioners, and legal and staff. I mean, here, I must take a stab at this. I'm going to make a motion, if that's the appropriate direction, that you direct them or put them in violation of their permit, okay? And tell them that we have called for a public hearing at the June meeting, at which time the commission could consider the revocation of their permit. We'll consider their matter and may take action, including but not limited, the revocation of their permit. Did I do that right there? Does that make
Well, but I mean, if we do nothing, aren't they in violation of their permit right now? And can't we just enforce said violation?
enforcement?
Or however that process works? No process.
What is the process?
They're violating the development code at this point, with which the development code states dealing with historical sites. And it was based on that, you know, stating that they could be there for that amount of time. So they're violating the historical site, which in turn, they're violating the development code, which means that they could be fined and
Okay, so let's go through the process.
Evicted.
So you notify them that they're in violation. I mean, theoretically, they have to have a due process somewhere. Where's their due process?
That's where I was gonna chime in. I think there has to be some kind of notification that they're violating their permit, and that we're gonna take something from them before we just go in and take it. Even though
Correct.
they do know this, you have to give them some kind of notification and some time delays before you just go in and take something from them.
Right,
Well,
so...
didn't you already
so-
notify them, Lance?
yes, I've notified them.
So that's ball's already been
I didn't know.
rolling.
Okay, I didn't know they were.
All right,
But at the same time, the commission action could be to direct you to send them a letter also.
Whatever action y'all.
You know, I mean, it's,
I agree with that,
the
yeah.
commission granted them a variance of the ordinance to put a temporary building there. They wanted 24 months.
Correct.
It's gone past that. Now, and yes, they know, but I agree they should be notified. They should be sent a reminder. So at this point, maybe the thing to do is get legal involved to contact them, and whatever is.
Okay, but counsel, I got a question for you. So you deliver a notice. So let's say we direct you to send them legal notice that effective May 10th, 2009, they were out of compliance with their permit. What's the due process after that? Do we ask them to come back before the planning commission? Or do we just simply enforce it and duke it out in court or somewhere else?
At this time, I think the proper procedure would be to give them notice and give them an opportunity to be heard at the next meeting and say, if you aren't at the next meeting, then we will take further action and do whatever your process is after.
Okay, so then my motion would be to direct staff to provide, well,
She is staff.
She's staff. So essentially, direct staff to provide them with legal notice of them having been in violation, and that a public hearing on their, that they will be granted an opportunity to come before us at the June meeting for a public hearing, at which time, we will take whatever appropriate action is deemed appropriate at the time. And
That's a motion.
Staff, yeah, that's a motion, and I
Okay.
guess, and staff, further clarity, if you've already written them a letter that's a notice, and you get legal to bless it as having been suitable notice, it doesn't need any further explanation, that's fine. But if you need to send them a new notice, send them a new notice.
Everybody understand the motion to send a legal notice to them that they're in violation of the code?
Second.
Seconded by Sherry Slyman. Any opposition? Motion carries. Mr. Dumas, zoning subcommittee. Item 7.
For point of clarification, we're meeting on the 29th of the month at 8 a.m.
Thank you.
Okay. We've been working on a number of things. We'll bring you up to speed on a few items. One of them is the fact that staff has in their hot little hands an executed contract for a consultant so that we can take the landscape ordinance further. We'll continue to work on the rules. That's a fun venture. And then there's a couple of other things that we're also working on, and I want to ask Lance to kind of expand a little bit on what you have before you on the home occupation, and ask after his explanation that we schedule a public hearing on a proposed amendment on that subject for the next month in June. Lance? You need to learn how to quit shaking your head like that.
He's got burned.
Yes, sir. We had discussions dealing with commercial uses in residential districts, and it came up in a few of the meetings at the subcommittee meetings dealing with commercial and these residential. After we discussed it about square footage and all other things, it was kind of stated that we already had something in our home occupation standards. So what we did basically is we took a lot of commercial uses out of the residential districts and limited just to home occupation standards. So that's basically what we did, and took those square footages out. And right now, the way we have it, as has been highlighted in home occupation standards, they're not to exceed 750 square feet. So it takes that 1,500 square foot out altogether, and it allows a maximum of that, or 20%. And what it does is it takes those uses where you have a separate building, I guess you could say, and all these different uses, and it just puts it into the home occupation standards.
We've had there've been a number of issues where folks have come in on a residential lot and asked for a 1,500 square foot, anything from a dental office to a
Beautician.
full-blown retail facility. So, I'm sorry.
Then I'd like to make a motion that we add this to our agenda next month for public hearing.
Second.
I should probably come in first and second, but okay. All right, we have a motion to add this on the agenda next month for public hearing. Any opposition? Motion carries.
And then the other subject matter is it's a little drainage issue, and I'm gonna let Ben kind of brief us on that one.
My predecessor, Chris Ewing, had started this process of revising the drainage ordinance, and I've continued with that, just kind of cleaning up some of the loose ends in there where that I've experienced with engineers coming in saying, well, this is how I see that, or and issues like that, as well as providing a little bit of flexibility into the drainage ordinance. As it's currently written, somebody comes in to put a snowball stand and they have to do the same amount of study that somebody coming in to do a 80-lot commercial subdivision would have to do. So instead of, forcing ourselves to review a million little reports, we're providing flexibility to allow these smaller developments to have a sort of abbreviated process in meeting the drainage ordinance. They still have to meet all of the drainage requirements. It's just cutting out a lot of the extra work that the larger developments would have to do. And that's about it. And just cleaning up some of the language and and we're also working towards providing an in lieu of option as far as providing detention for new developments. This will allow developers of larger developments to come in, and instead of providing detention up front, they'll buy into a bank of sorts that the parish will maintain. There's a long way to go before we can really get going on that, but this puts the framework in place. Each watershed will be divided into a watershed improvement district. That will then have an account associated with it, and as development occurs in there, they buy into this fund, and we will implement the comprehensive strategy for that watershed improvement district. Before that happens, each district will have to have a study done and designed, a comprehensive drainage system designed for that district, so that we can know kind of what it's going to cost and what the fees should be for a given district.
Okay, thank you, Ben. Anything else, Julio? You got?
Well, this is another matter that we would like to schedule for a public meeting in June, and so we'll ask for a motion to put this on the June agenda.
I have a question on this. Ben, the copy that we've got, I see notes. I mean, is this the final document? Is this what you're wanting us to?
We prepared a draft, and then we had a roundtable where we invited engineers, developers, contractors to come kind of have their thoughts on this. And then this draft is for any comments from you guys or subcommittees as we move towards the hopefully adopting this document.
I mean, before we hold.
Would you rather wait another month and then have us do this? Or are you anxious to move forward?
It would be, in my opinion, it would be better if we went ahead and at least got a clean document so we can see the changes, not just a bunch of notes along here too, because I don't know what.
That is the document. The notes that you see on the side are illustrating what changed in the current ordinance. So,
I asked Ben to put together a version of the ordinance, like a Cliff Notes version, that you guys could look at and see where we've changed things and why we've changed them.
So the notes are the whys.
What's that?
The notes are the whys.
Right.
Okay.
So the ordinance is exactly as it is, but there's highlights and lines, and that's just basically our Cliff Notes version to help explain what we've changed and why we've changed it.
Okay.
So it's not changing.
The handwritten notes are the explanation for the significant changes. The bubbled notes on the side are
or the actual changes.
The actual, yeah.
Okay.
To underline and highlight the actual changes.
Right.
So when you say it here, make it clear what falls under the requirement of the ordinance for paragraph 3, you're just explaining why those changes are there.
Correct.
Okay. Just want to make sure. Okay.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to bring it to public hearing next month. And we will have a month to look over this, and we will get maybe in our next packet, we can get a clean copy so we can read over it. And if we're not happy, we can discuss it at that time, and we can always table it then if we need to, but this way we can move forward.
I second it.
Motion by Sherry Slyman to bring this up for public hearing next month, seconded by Beverly Barre. Any opposition? Motion carries.
Thank you all very much.
All right, thank you. And
We'll try.
item number 8, adjourned. Till next month.
Second. Gone.